Hey there my friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's project is a hedgehog and I'm working in pastel on pastel matte, that's Clairefontaine pastel matte paper. Now this little project of the hedgehog holds a very dear place in my heart because it's in memory of a little hedgehog we rescued last year and we named him Chester. He was from an autumn litter but unfortunately he passed away. So it's in memory of him that I'm doing this little project today. Okay, so back to the project. It is pastel matte paper by a company called Clairefontaine. The paper itself has a cork-like texture to it, a cork-like quality. It's sort of an in-between velour paper that feels fluffy and the sanded paper that feels like sandpaper. This is in between. It does take a lot of layers and it keeps the brighter colours nice and bright. It doesn't dull down any of the colours when you're working on the white. You can get it in all different colours, but today I'm working on the white. So what I've done is I sketched the hedgehog very roughly on a piece of photocopy paper, just a vague outline really, and just made note of where the eyes and the nose and the ears are, and then I transferred that sketch over onto this piece of paper. Then I masked out the hedgehog with a piece of Frisket masking film, and then I was able to begin to apply pastel and not worry about it going over the areas where the hedgehog is going to be. Although if you do find you have to work without a mask on your subject, even if you go over the edges slightly, it doesn't matter because the pastel that's then used to create the hedgehog will cover up any background details that have overlapped, so that's fine. So the pastel I'm using at the moment are the PanPastels, that's by the company PanPastel, and the tool I'm using is called a Sofft tool, and I'll have everything linked below in the video description. So at the moment I'm just using 3 different greens. There's a medium green, a light green and a dark green, just to create an out of focus background. So those of you that like photography, a very shallow depth of field that we're looking at here. Just want all the focus in the finished project to be just on the hedgehog's face. So that's what I had in mind. That's what I sketched out. Did a couple of thumbnail sketches, a very, very small sketch, just a few inches sort of square. And you just look for composition within that, so there's no detailing, there's just shapes, and I might do a video on thumbnailing ideas. Might be something people are interested in. Let me know in the comments below, and also let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see any particular subject covered or if you'd like any particular medium covered. So moving on, I just went in, like I said, with the 3 green PanPastels, light, medium and dark, and I just threw in a little bit of lilac as well into the background, just to give it a little bit more of a natural feel than all green. I then removed the masking from the hedgehog and then covered the work partially with a piece of glassine paper. Now this glassine paper is also by the company Clairefontaine. I buy it in really big sheets. I think they are 50 centimetres by 70 centimetre sheets, and then I just cut them down to fit the project that I'm working on. I find that's the cheapest way of doing it, and then they're all stored in the boxes that they were delivered in, so they're all stored flat. You could store them upright as long as there's plenty of padding in there to stop the paper getting crinkled. So the idea with glassine paper, I think it used to be called butcher's paper, is that it doesn't pick up anything. So you can lay it across pastel, you can lay it across graphite or charcoal, and you can lean on it while you're working, but it doesn't pick up any of the pigment from off of the paper. So it doesn't smudge any of your work. It's much better than using a normal piece of paper to cover your work and lean on, because if you're using a normal piece of paper, it will at some point pick up pigment, especially if it's pigment that's been heavily laid down onto the paper. Okay, so back to the project. So using the Sofft tool again, and it's like, it might feel weird using Sofft tools to begin with. They've got replaceable foam tips, so you use whichever tip shape that you feel is necessary for that part of the project. And then the tools, I think there's 3 or 4 different shaped tools, and you just slot the foam protector onto the tool. You can wash them, or if they wear out, you just replace the foam tool, but not the foam tip, but not the tool. So the tools will last forever, and the foam tips are replaceable. So I'm just using PanPastels again. A PanPastel is pastel pigment compacted down into a little tub. They come across as fairly expensive when you first see the price, but there is a lot of pigment in each tub, and in actual fact it does work out cheaper than buying pastel sticks. So we're just building up a little bit of texture now. Now all I want to do at the moment, all I'm focused on doing at the moment, is going around the hedgehog, building a little bit of form and getting rid of the white paper. Now I could have used a brown tone pastel matte paper here, because I could have let some of the brown show through to help with the coverage of the hedgehog, but that might have dulled down the greens and the lilacs that I used in the background. So just for simplicity in itself, I just went with the white today. The orange tape that is taping the paper down partially, I first used a normal masking tape, an artist masking tape, to tape the paper to the board, and I've secured it with a little bit of sellotape over the masking tape so it won't affect the acidity of the paper in any way. Then, to ensure that I've got clean edges once the painting is finished, I've just gone around with artists washi tape. That's the orange tape. So in actual fact there's 2 types of masking tape there, a little bit of sellotape as well to hold everything in place. So as you can see, I've gone round the whole of the hedgehog now with a light PanPastel, a little bit of a darker PanPastel. Doesn't matter what colours you use really when you're working on a hedgehog, because it all depends in what light the hedgehog has been photographed in. But just to keep your contrasts visible, continuously working on your contrast so that your lights are lighter and your darks go darker. The more contrast, the more realistic your subjects look. And you can achieve, if it's not actually showing up on your photograph, then take your reference image into an app on your phone or a program on your PC or laptop and just play around with the contrast settings. Keep the original photograph as it is, make a duplicate, mess around with the colours, the contrast, the tones, and see if you can improve your reference image that will then improve your style in your artwork. And obviously this isn't working really realistically, this is working in a stylized style, yeah. But all the techniques remain the same, whether you're working realistically or you're stylizing a piece. So it will be photorealistic because I am working from a photograph, but it'll be a little bit stylized as well. So I've used a little bit of lilac across the nose. Now that's not necessarily in the reference image, but I just wanted to pull in a little bit of the colour from the background into the subject. And I do find I do that in nearly all of my paintings. If there's a purple in the background or a burgundy in the background, I'll pull it into the animal's fur or the animal's face or the bird's feathers or the fish's scales or the reptile's skin, anything like that. I'll bring in the colours from the background into the subject, even if it's only sort of a slight hint of that colour, and it just pulls the picture together and makes it a whole picture, as opposed to making it look like the subject is just sort of cut out and stuck onto the background. I mean, it does look that way at the moment, but I do go in a bit and blur around the edges of the hedgehog and fit him into his scenery a little bit better. So just working on the nose now, popping in a little bit of burgundy. The pencils I worked with on this project are the Caran pastel pencils, and I must say now the video isn't sponsored by Caran, but I've worked with Caran for the past 10 years demonstrating for them, and they did send me the complete set of pastel pencils. I think I've had probably 3 complete sets of them by now because I've worn through them, but they do wear a long time. They do sharpen to a nice point, they do retain the point, but they're very soft and blendable as well, so they're a brilliant all-rounder pastel pencil. And I do work, I think I work with a few Conte, that's the Conte Pit Pastel pencils as well. I've had for 40 years and they're still going strong. Yeah, I had them for my 14th birthday from my dad. Unfortunately, my dad's no longer with us. He passed away in 2001. So it's lovely working with those and bringing back some lovely memories. Yeah, I'm 54 now. Right. Okay, moving on. So the eyes are in. The eyes are very small in this piece, so I just popped a little bit of burgundy into the eyes, followed by a little bit of black, leaving space for the white, and that really was about it for the eyes. Very simple to do. When you see me go on like that with the fingers, I'm not trying to remove any of the pastel, I'm just pushing it in and slightly blending it with the surrounding colours, that's all. You can use a blending tool for that. You could use a paper blending stump. What you've got to be careful is, or a silicone tool, but yeah, what you've got to be careful is that by doing that, if you use a silicone tool or a blending stump, it does sometimes remove some of the pastel instead of leaving it in situ on the paper where you want it to be. So just keep that in mind. So a little bit more burgundy. The burgundy again isn't in the reference material, but I did want to warm the tones, warm the hues a little bit, take the temperature as it were of the painting up a little bit, so it looks a little bit more warm and friendly. And as I said, this is all done in memory of a little hedgehog, can't even say it. We named Chester. He was very ill when we got him, and he ended up going to a rescue and rehabilitation centre, but he really wasn't a viable baby, which is very sad when we know that hedgehogs in the UK are on the decline. Okay, so we went in with a little bit of cream then, just to get the hairs moving in the right direction on the muzzle. And it's the case of just keep looking at your reference image. I'll put a link in the video description of 2 websites where you can get copyright free reference images from to use in your own work, and that's pixabay.com and unsplash.com. Take a look over there and you can find yourself some lovely reference images to work from, all copyright free. You can use them in your artwork, you can sell your artwork or exhibit it with no worrying about where the reference images came from. So we're just putting a base colour into the ear. Again, the ears are very small. There's not really a lot of detail in there, so I'm just blocking them in. A little bit of burgundy, a little bit of dark brown and a little bit of black. Excuse me. And if you're going to add black to a painting, never add black on its own because it can look very flat. So always go underneath the black with a burgundy or a brown if you want your painting to look warm, or lilacs and purples and some reds if you want your painting to look cool. So that's something to keep in mind when working on projects of your own. Just using sort of a taupe colour there, cinnamon taupe, can't remember what it's called now. The colours don't matter as much as the contrast. Keep the contrast in mind, and the colours as near to natural as you can. If a natural look is what you're going for. If something really stylized you're looking for, and you want to make I don't know, a purple hedgehog or a blue hedgehog, something like that, then by all means go along those lines with your colours, but keep your contrast sets at quite higher level, and the contrast is going to catch people's eye and make them want to look at your work more than colour. Okay, unless it's something, you know, like a peacock, then you've got to have the colours in there, the iridescent blues and greens. Now what I've done is, I just wanted to show you this because I know a lot of YouTubers keep their work upright and show you with their hand leaning in from over the top. Now that might be fine for them, but I want to be comfortable when I'm creating my artworks, and I want to show you that there's nothing wrong with turning your artwork round. So here I've got it positioned on its side, and it just makes it so much more comfortable for me to film, because obviously you've got the camera leaning over my left shoulder, and I just want to show you that if you want to turn your artwork round to make it more comfortable for you to do the strokes that need to go on there, then do it. If I'm working and I'm not filming, my artwork is on the side, upside down, the right way round, and I'll keep moving it round to make it more comfortable for me. You're the artist. Position your artwork how you're comfortable working, and your artwork will turn out better for it. If you're comfortable when you're working, it does show in your artwork. It's just like if you're enjoying working on a particular subject, it does show through in the completed artwork. If you're working on a subject that you don't particularly like, that will show through in your artwork as well. So just keep that in mind too. So just adding a little bit of this warm deep red, trying to get some shape into the top of the head where the little spines start. And then gently rubbing, well, not even rubbing, gently brushing, I guess, against the texture of the paper. And he's back the right way round now. So I've just put in a few dark marks on the top of those spines, and really that was just mapping it out for me, just so I know where those spines start. I did put some rest of the cream hairs on his face going up towards that crest of spines, popped some whiskers in so I know where they're going to go. I'll go over those whiskers again later on, but just sort of mapping everything out. Now if I wasn't filming, I'd be popping from one part of the painting to another. When you're working on a complete painting, you know, as a whole, you might be working on the subject but then notice something you've missed in the background. Now instead of leaving it and sometimes forgetting about it, what you've just spotted, it's nice to be able to pop back and pop in what you've just noticed you've missed. And here what I've done is I've just gone around the edge of the hedgehog with the taupe colour pastel pencil, and I've just blurred it out. So again, bringing the focus back to the face and pushing the body back away from the viewer again by making it out of focus. Excuse me. Now I'm going in with that was a Derwent. That's a Derwent pastel pencil. So just popping in there with a Derwent pastel pencil and positioning some darks. At the minute, I'm not doing anything with the foreground at all. As you've seen, I've done the background first, then the subject, and the last thing I'll do will be the foreground. Now the reason I don't do the subject first and then the background is because I want the subject to be sitting in front of the background. I want it to be overlapping the background. Some artists do the subject first and then the background, but my preference is to do the other way round. If you do the subject first and then the background, you've then got to come back into the subject and overlap the edges so it's still sitting on top of the background. So, I mean, that's fine if that's how you feel comfortable doing it. I just like to get the background in, get it done, and then concentrate on the subject, because it's the subject, the animal or bird, that I like to work on. I mean, that's my favourite, so I like to get the background done and out of the way, and then enjoy the process of bringing the subject to life. So here I've taken the dark red, and now I'm playing around positioning some of these spines. So what I'm looking for is, I want the face to be the main focus. Then obviously the initial spines that I put in were part of the face as well, you know, part of the main focus. But now, as I'm working away from that central area, these have got to become less and less detailed, so they all blend in and blur out with the rest of the body. I'm doing movements with my hands and you can't even see me. Oh dear. It's a good job this hasn't got a webcam running at the same time. So yeah, so now we're going to put in the little darker ticks. That's a Derwent pastel pencil, and that's the name of that one is Chocolate. It's a really lovely colour. I don't know if that colour's been discontinued now. That's quite an old pastel pencil, but I'm sure you'll be able to get hold of something similar. As I said, the colour isn't important, as long as you're going in with a dark. Where you see dark in your reference image is where you put dark in your painting. It's that simple. Just draw what you see and not what you think you can see. Make sure you're working from a reference image that's pleasing to you straight away. Make sure you've got a strong initial drawing down. I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel explaining how I come up with the initial sketch, and then just work and from your reference image. Keep your eye on your reference image, especially when working with animals. Make sure you're always referring back to your reference image for hair direction and the length of hairs as well, or in this case spine direction and the length of the spines. So putting in some more out of focus colours now. So it's all trickery, isn't it? Art is making the viewer see what's not really there, to be quite honest. I mean, this hedgehog doesn't exist on paper. It's just marks, pencil marks on a piece of paper that's making you see a hedgehog. So you can do so much art, and then the viewer's brain fills in the rest, I believe. So yeah, so we're just making it look like there's more spines going back, little tiny marks, little out of focus marks that enable the viewer to imagine what's there as opposed to what's really there. I hope that makes sense. It's really hard to, I know what I see. I see marks on a piece of paper, and obviously I know what I want the viewer to see, and that is a hedgehog sitting in an out of focus background. So okay, so those darker browns were added, and then I went over with cream flicks on the top of each one, and then gently patted the rest of the body out until it went a little bit fuzzy again. So for me, the hedgehog is fine as he is, and I'll move on to the foreground. So back to the PanPastels with the Sofft tools. Excuse me, just get a drink. Adding a little bit of lilac in there, and it is a darker lilac, more or less the colour that I've added to the face. So it's a little bit of a darker lilac than the lilac that's shown in the background. And again, it's just pulling the hues from the background into the subject matter, just to tie the painting together. I believe this was the lighting slightly different in this shot, so I believe I was filming at night time now. I had to have a different lighting system on in the studio, but it's the same thing, the same materials, just under a different light source. It's the same light source but without the light coming through the window. That's what I meant to say. Oh, I'm waffling today. I need an anti-waffle button, I think. Okay, so I'm now dipping into the lilac PanPastel with the Sofft tool, and the white, so it's a light lilac and a white, and literally just getting out of focus marks. I'm applying very randomly using the soft tools. Now I'm using the edge of a soft tool, the same colour pastels, dipping it in and tapping it off onto the paper. It's literally that simple. Don't be worried about applying out of focus backgrounds, out of focus foregrounds, because that's it, they're out of focus. You don't have to put any detail in. Put it in nice and randomly. Try, when you're doing anything that's random in artwork, try thinking of something else. Try thinking of, I don't know, a shopping list, a to-do list that you've got. And it just takes your mind off this process of trying to be random. If you try to be random on purpose, it doesn't work. Lines can end up looking like rows of soldiers, especially if you're doing hair on an animal. You can end up being random but in a pattern, and it just looks wrong. So try thinking about something else, relax and have some fun. And you can practice on another piece of paper if that helps. Now I'm just using the point of the pastel applicator. I'm showing you there, sort of a yellow and a cream, tapping between the two. So again, it's random. Whatever is going onto that pad is mixing in a random fashion. I'm not doing anything deliberately there except going between the two colours, so that when I apply it to the paper, I don't know if there's going to be more yellow or less yellow, more cream, less cream. It's going to be random. So it's then again random onto the paper. Placing the tip colours onto the paper, try not to try and fill every single space. Again, this needs to be random. So just randomly spot it around the front of the foreground, leaving, whatever's nearest to the viewer still blurred. And really that's about it for today. So I've signed it using a colour that was used in the painting itself. Remove the tape. If you're having problems removing any masking tape or washi tape, just heat it with a hairdryer first and it will come off. And there we have it. In memory of Chester, bless him. A simple hedgehog in pastel on pastel matte paper. I hope you've enjoyed today's waffling video. I hope you've learnt something. I hope you give pastels a try. If you haven't hit like, then I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate that too. Okay, now I'm off to work on my next video, which is Inktense. That's a water-soluble ink, and it's going to be a fish in Inktense. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Stay safe and have a nice weekend. It's Saturday today. Yes, glass of wine tonight. Stay safe, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.